Hi guys, thanks for joining me and welcome to this week's episode of Saint of the Week. This week we're thinking about a guy called Blessed Hilary Januszewski. He's not yet been made a saint, but his story is still a remarkable example for us all to follow. So here's 5 things we think you need to know about him. Number 1, he was born in Poland in 1907. He was actually born with the name Pavel, but when he joined the Carmelites at the age of 20, he chose the name Hilary to be his religious name. He was known as someone who was incredibly studious, but he was also someone who a lot of people wouldn't notice. He was really quiet, he kept himself to himself, and was deeply devoted to prayer. Number 2. After studying in Rome, he returned to Poland and was placed in charge of a religious community in Krakow. Whilst there, he became known as someone who led that community with love, prayer, and a real care for the people he was looking after. Number 3. In September 1939, the German government, who by this point had invaded Poland, sent instruction for members of religious communities to be arrested because they were speaking out against the German occupation. Hilary's community was raided and a number of members of the Carmelite community were arrested. One of those was an elderly man who was quite ill at the time, and Hilary volunteered to take his place. Hilary was sent to a number of concentration camps before ending up at the concentration camp named Dachau. Number 4. Whilst imprisoned in Dachau, Hilary continued to minister. He continued to be a leader of faith. He helped to organise secret masses and prayer services, and he prayed with people. In 1945, there was an outbreak of typhus in the camp, and Hilary volunteered to be someone who would go and minister to the sick, to look after them, even though he knew that he would likely contract the disease and eventually be killed by it. In April 1945, just a month before the liberation of the concentration camp, Hilary contracted typhus and sadly died. Number 5. In June, we're called to reflect on the Sacred Heart. And Hilary's life is a perfect example of how we can reflect the love of God into the world around us. Hilary lived what he would have said was a very simple life. A lot of people wouldn't have noticed him. He was devoted to prayer, but he was also devoted to caring for other people. When the elderly Carmelite was faced with being arrested, Hilary stepped in and chose to take his place, showing a true example of Christ's love in the world. And then at the concentration camp, he didn't hide or give up his faith. He stayed strong and persisted with helping others encounter Christ, even in that most difficult and darkest of places. And at the end of his life, Hilary was serving others. Even though he knew that that service would ultimately lead to his own death, he knew it was the right thing to do. As we reflect on the love that God has for us, Blessed Hilary's life is an example of how we can share that love to those around us, loving and caring for everyone we meet. So this week, reflect on how you can love and care for others, even if it's the difficult thing to do. Have a great week. See you again soon. Goodbye.